Pandemonium actually picked up from Milton's Paradise Lost, where it's the kingdom of hell. It's basically the banking sector have gone through hell. In this manthan, who will drink the halal and make the banking system come out of its problem? I tried to raise those questions, but getting the stories were really difficult. When Reserve Bank of India asked Rana Kapoor to go, there was hard lobbying with the regulator to allow Kapoor to remain in the saddle. There are many books between the two covers. In one such meeting at RBI, Kapoor called the bank his son, tears rolling down his eyes. But the regulator was not impressed. There are many more. It's a story everybody had in their chest and they wanted to get it out, and they were looking for somebody, and they found that probably I could be the person.
Tamal sir, for making time for India Podcasts again, and this time it's a moment to congratulate again, 6th book in a row, and this is going to be one of your, I should say, the larger picture book that has come out, the Pandemonium, the great Indian banking tragedy. Please tell us a little bit about it. That first, how is this moment coming to you?
No, it's okay. Now you yourself said that I'm 6-book old. And
Yes.
I've written that in the past 8 years, so I'm now used to it. So, and that should all my books have done reasonably well by the non-fiction standard. I'm not getting into the numbers. So, and yes, you are right that it's very different from my old books, because out of 5 past books, 4 are on institutions and 1 on a sort of essays on different aspects of Indian banking and finance. But this has a much larger picture. I would say from economic liberalization in early 90s till now, and the way forward. And so it's much more complicated, much more difficult, much more challenging task, and people are waiting for it. That's what they said. They are they would like to know what's there. A lot of curiosity about it. So for an author, yeah, it's a nice feel. It's an excitement, suspense. That's it.
Tamal sir, coming to this book specifically, the name is very striking, The Pandemonium. Especially we are time just coming out of COVID days, and this book talks about the great Indian banking tragedy. Can you tell us what is the core idea or the core subject of the book that you're bringing about? Is it only about banking, or is it about the entire economy as a whole? What are we expecting out of it?
No, this is a much larger. This is a much larger canvas. It's beyond banking and finance. It's on the larger. I would say it's an India story, and because of COVID pandemic and pandemonium, people are getting like very curious. Anything to do with this? Certainly not. Pandemonium actually picked up from Milton's Paradise Lost, where it's the kingdom of hell, and our banking system, which is a sort of backbone of economy, and typically in newspaper parlance, pandemonium is a very uproar, outcry, which is a very short-lived. Like the parliament, there's a pandemonium in parliament, something like that. But I have not used it in that sense. It's basically the banking sector have gone through hell, and also I have that in mind. The mythical war between the devas and the asuras, and how the churning on the ocean, and that the poison came up, the halahal, and we found that Shiva was the person who had drank the halahal, and that's how entire thing was saved. Now, in the Indian context, Reserve Bank of India had stirred the financial system, the banking system, and out of this manthan, the halahal, which is in the form of bad loans, or the NPAs, came up. We crossed 10% gross NPAs among the G20 nations. We are the second country after Soviet Union in 2019. But my question is this: in this manthan, who will drink the halal and make the banking system come out of its problem? Is that the government, which means loads of cash, that's recapitalization? Will that happen? Will the government allow private sector to take over some of the public sector banks? Is the consolidation the right answer? Because
Yes.
we have a we have a bank-driven financial system, and government is the majority owner of a large part of the banking system. Again, which is very different from most other countries. So I tried to raise those questions. I don't have the answer, but I explore certain answers.
When I was going through this little bit of synopsis and some trailer I saw of your book launch, I was trying to understand, is it going to be more of an analysis? Is it going to be more of a fact description out there? What is that we will find in the book about banking, about economy, about various aspects you're talking about?
One word, what you will find is the story. You know, you have to see, I'm actually an illiterate person when it comes to banking and finance.
Which I,
I don't have the academic background. So once we are dealing with this very large canvas, there are three ways it could have been done. One is, I sit in my armchair and I see things, what happened, and I tell you what has gone right, what has gone wrong, and I tell you, I give you direction or prescription, could have been done, what should have been done, and what needs to be done. So that's one way of doing it. Am I capable of doing it? Certainly not. Second way is what you said, the analysis. Again, you go through the numbers, the data, you crunch them, and you find a pattern, and you bring in a little bit of text to support that, what you find from the data. But that, I find, it's a bit of academic exercise. It may not be exciting as a reader. For academician, it's fine, but not for reader. I want this book to be read by you, me, everybody, not by the banking sector alone, because it's a
not
larger India
technically.
story. Yeah. So the third way, which is probably the easiest way, which I have found out, and that is not, it's because I am not capable of following the first two ways, is this telling a story. I have tried to weave a story, and data is a sort of supporting element. It's not data driven. So it's basically, I tried to tell you the story of what has gone wrong, the story of how the consolidation happened. You find that one bank MD and CEO in a Goa at an offsite gets a call from finance ministry, and very next morning takes a flight to Delhi and gets to know that his bank is being involved in the merger. And not only one banker, quite a few other bankers have been called, that to create a smoke screen, actually which bank is getting merged with which, because they are all listed entities. You can't let this story get out. And then how it started. Similarly, you will find a story of a bank MD and CEO. The previous night he was with then minister holding the finance portfolio in Delhi. Came back late night, early morning he has gone for his yoga classes, and incidentally that day there was no physical exercise. He was meant to listen to a bhajana which talks about how you need to be strong mentally to overcome all the difficulties and the crisis that may you need to face in life. And lo and behold, after the yoga class, on his bicycle, he goes to the sabji market, picks up some vegetable, comes home and finds that the police waiting for him. And he got picked up, and he had to spend the night in the jail with a criminal who was allegedly arrested for killing a builder. Or
Wow.
yet another, in this case, this is a bank serving CEO, deputy managing director of a bank who was just retired. He came back from his morning walk, and the CBI people were waiting for him. And then the search is on till late evening. And the late evening he was asked, and the CBI inspector checked with him whether he wants to, let's go to the CBI office, and would you like to carry your medicine? He did not get the hint. I heard it from his colleagues. And once he reached the CBI office, He was just heard that you are under arrest. And next morning, he was sent to Arthur jail. Or yet another bank CEO was just waiting to step down in his room, and the farewell function was about to start in the boardroom. At 7 minutes before, the email comes from Delhi that person was sacked. So these are the stories, good, bad,
It is.
ugly, the stories.
But this seems to be a very picturized view and a very different view to how you've approached it. Before I go to the question linked to what you said, I have to ask you, while you were preparing for this kind of this different kind of storytelling book, to say so, what went into it? Because I see a whole chapter also talking about the anecdotes narrated by the former RBI governors.
No, you see, actually, these are many books between the two covers, right? You will find quite a few books actually. And like one particular segment which you mentioned, that Reserve Bank of India governor, I
Yes.
reached out to all past governors, and not
Yes.
everybody was willing to speak for different reasons, but at least four of them. So that's a serious bit. As I said, I cannot be prescriptive, but they can be. So
Yes.
this was a one-on-one interview with Dr. Reddy, Dr. Rangarajan, um, and two more.
Dr. Raghuram Rajan, Shubha Rao.
Dr. Raghuram Rajan and Subbarao, which is relatively recent. And more or less the same set of questions they're asked. Like, is it a banking
Okay.
crisis, or is it a crisis spilling over to the economy? It's becoming an economic crisis. Should the government continue to remain the owner of the banks? What should it do? And what went wrong? Why India banking system accumulates so much of bad assets? Was RBI like somebody said that you were actually driving a car from first gear to fourth gear? Was RBI too aggressive in this
Yes.
cleaning up drive, and in the process did actually harm? Because you say that so many banks come under the so-called PCA, prompt corrective action. They were not allowed to lend, and the credit of tech came dramatically down in the past few years. So should RBI be held accountable for this?
Yes.
So here is no story. It's a serious stuff, and for RBI governors giving their point of views, some of them owning up certain responsibilities, some of them are saying certain things. So yes, as I said, I wanted to have a 360-degree view of what's happening in Indian banking system. So it's a combination of a bird's eye view and a fly on the wall kind of thing. So I was a fly on the wall, and the bird's eye view has been given by all these governors. But getting the stories were really difficult, because officially I have interviewed 4 governors, but off the record probably I have spoken 400 people, if not more. And that's central bankers, there's commercial bankers, the rating agencies, the corporate India, representative from corporate India, people from judiciary, people from police and other investigative agencies, people from ministry. So every corner. And yes, there it matters that whether they can trust you, whether they can open up and they can story. Like somebody is giving me the story, that not that person, it's somebody else is giving the story about that, and that needs to be cross-checked and all. So it's fun. It's challenging. It's fun. But at the end of the day, if the outcome is what you wanted, you feel nice. Like for instance, this book has the story of the entire Yes Bank story.
Yes. And even the ICICI Bank story.
Yes. But how Rana Kapoor turned Yes Bank into My Bank and into No Bank for himself. And when I said My Bank, I'm not saying it figuratively. Actually, My Bank is one of the names which Yes Bank considered as a name. There are 6 names on the table, out of which Yes Bank was picked up. And My Bank was one of the names. So Rana Kapoor turned Yes Bank into My Bank, and then No Bank. That's the first part of the story. And then Ravneet Gill was picked up to lead for the revival. And why he failed, that's the second part of it. And
despite of the assurances he kept giving,
yes. So did he get the right kind of cooperation from the board? Did he get the right kind of cooperation from Reserve Bank of India, from his own employees? what went wrong, and why we have seen this kind of unique rescue package, because it was not merged with any other bank historically. If
Yes.
any private banks falls from the grace, and it needs to be rescued, it got merged with somebody else. But Yes Bank, they worked out a very different package. So why did it happen? How did it happen? So on both on phase 1 and phase 2, you will find that so graphically described. And as you said, the Chanda Kochar, how
Yes.
why the board was eating out of her hand. So these are all behind the scenes stories. But when I say stories, it's not fiction. They're all real life stories.
Real life stories.
It's a way of
Beautifully
speaking.
said. Behind the scenes story is what I really pick up from the phrase that you said. So, was there that moment, a eureka moment, as you always say, that led you into spiral you to go for it? Like, this has to be done.
It took about a year. As I said, I am pretty disciplined in my approach. I've produced 6 books with this in 8 years, so it is not bad. And this book is 150,000 words, about 550 odd pages.
550 pages.
In fact, COVID helped me because I had nothing else to do. Home confinement in this small study between February, or rather March end till August.
Wow.
I focused fully on writing the book. My pet at my feet, and those March, April, May, June, 6 months it took to write. If you ask me any eureka moment, yes. Why I chose this subject and how I started is that eureka moment is on 15th October 2019, and there our finance minister, it's called the Deepak and Neera Raj Center on Indian Economic Policies at Columbia University. It's a relatively young institution. It started in October 2015, where Arun Jaitley gave the inaugural address, and then again he spoke in October 2017. And in October 2019, Nirmala Sitharaman made her first visit, and she spoke about a written speech. She spoke about India's vision, Indian government vision of 5 trillion economy. And and it was then after that there was a moderated discussion, moderated by
Yes.
Dr. Arvind Panagaria, and one gentleman stood up and asked her the question. It is a pretty long question, but the short of it is this: he asked that, quoting Dr. Raghuram Rajan, that do you think, madam, that India is now having a too centralized government, um, and this too much of centralization actually coming
Yes.
on the way of economic growth? She first tried to understand what was the question. Then she asked him, "Can you repeat the question?" And then when he repeated, and she said that she respects Guram Rajan for whatever he has done, but it's during Dr. Rajan's regime, Dr. Rajam and Manmohan Singh combination, that was the worst phase of India's public sector bank. So everything went bad during this time. And somebody who was in the audience, actually, I got a call from that gentleman. He said, "Look, I hear this. Your finance minister is saying this to his question. Do you agree with this? Is Rajan is the villain of the piece? Is Manmohan Singh is the villain of the piece?" Um, and then I thought, you can call it the eureka moment. Let me explore actually how did the rot start?
And at this moment, do you
Yeah,
feel
sorry.
you have justifyingly found your answers to an extent in this whole process of looking out?
No, no, it will be very pompous way of saying that I have found my answer. I think it's up to you. I mean, you meaning the readers. I tried to find the answer. I actually went back to the 90s and then tried to figure out what went wrong. Is it like the abolition of development financial institutions and trying to ask bank getting all that doing everything universal bank, but the banks did not have the expertise and they have not have picked the expertise of giving working capital loan. This is the reason. Is the failure of having right kind of infrastructure financing institutions the reason? Is the now there's a corporate bond did not exist, even now it's a very not a very strong market. Is that the reason? Is the corruption reason or the fraud reason? What has gone wrong? why we have reached this. Is even Reserve Bank of India, does it need new clothes? Does Reserve Bank of India ask certain questions itself, or can it just iron it and keep on wearing the old clothes? Even
And
Reserve
even
Bank of
you
India.
have spoken about how the bankers were put into that spot because of malified cases, or the corporate India was also responsible to an extent with the,
Yes,
as we could
yes.
see in your trailer. So it's very, very nicely stitched. But before I let you skip out, sir, I will not leave this moment. I would request you to read one small paragraph, which is your favorite portion from the book for our reader, for our viewers today. So any small four
Oh
lines
dear.
that you would like to read it to us.
Uh,
It's rare a chance we get
uh,
the author to tell us from his own mouth.
I One
Which
second.
chapter really moved you when you were writing that?
Well, just this is about
Yes.
when Reserve Bank of India asked Rana Kapoor to go. In this particular paragraph, I'm just saying that there was hard lobbying with the regulator to allow Kapoor to remain in the saddle, as the bank could not run without him. In one such meeting at RBI, Kapoor called the bank his son, his only son between his three biological daughters, tears rolling down his eyes. But the regulator was not impressed.
It takes another level to think in that sense and write down because you have seen things 360 degrees. So thank you so much, Tamal sir. We wish you all the best. We're really looking forward to this book. But also we also take a message from you because your publisher is Rolly Books. I think they are publishing your book. So any word that you want to say about your publisher?
It's my first relationship with Rolly, and I would say it's fabulous because Kapil, who's actually I think taken over from his dad, and he runs the show in the diversity. He's extremely passionate about the book, and he's lending all support a publisher can have. So absolutely, it's a fabulous journey. I only hope that we go to the destination, which making a book a big success. Till now, it's a journey. It will continue to be a journey, and it's not my journey alone. It's always publisher is there. Whatever support I need, it's always Kapil is there. So I'm fortunate to have a publisher like him. I think it's a story everybody had in their chest and they wanted to get it out, and they think that people should know. So that's how it comes, and they were looking for somebody, the right kind of messenger or catalyst, whoever you call it, and they found that probably I could be the person. So those people who I have not named because I can't name, but those people who actually have told me the stories and taught me those little things, shared with me the anecdotes, and that's what I could give you sense as if I am an eyewitness to everything else. But actually, they are the people. I thank them. If the book is if the book is anything lacking, it's completely my responsibility. And if the book is a success, it's because of them.
Such a humble message. We wish you all the best, and all the people who supported you will definitely find success with this book and their talks told to the world in the right manner. Thank you so much, Tamal sir. Wish you all the best and hope to get through a lot more about the banking and the economy of the country through this book. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. Thanks.